The following program is sponsored by The Greek, Ely's Radio Shack dealer, the 570 Altman in downtown Ely, and brought to you as a public service by Georgetown Media in Ely, Nevada. Regional Transportation Commission meeting, May 23rd, 2022.
Roll call. Here.
Richard now here.
You got them all written down.
I've got them all.
Michael, how would you like to lead the pledge?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comment. George,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I've got an ongoing concern in regards to the NDOT project on Great Basin Boulevard. Again, I want to remind you that NDOT did not follow their administration code, in particular access 2.6 and pedestrian disability facilities 2.7. The corner of my property, 710 Avenue G, is yet to be corrected. I still have a 1-foot drop coming off of the parking lot onto the side, on the sidewalk. On other areas, Great Basin Avenue M, everything is supposed to be straightened out. They bulked down in the city street. Can't do that. All of that was supposed to be corrected when the project was being considered. Also, you have the same problem on Great Basin in Avenue L. It's been months now. I brought this to your attention more than once. 1-foot drop on my property. Can't do that. Federal regulations, ADA, minimum access hasn't happened. On Avenue D, when the board did the overlay, no curb, no gutter,
I remember that.
no access, needs to be done. That's on one side of Avenue D. Here's the other side. You can't park like that. If you do, where was the permit? I want to remind you of a memo dated June 26, 1991. It was when I was mayor. All corners have to have handicap access. The state's got a project going on 14th and Avenue D as well as 15th and Avenue D. They're putting in curb and gutter. On the corner of 15th and Avenue D, there is no handicap access. On the far side, the curb and gutter goes only so far and nothing on the corner in regards to ADA access. I want that addressed. Also, I have an ongoing concern on regards to 11th and East Stockman South Side sidewalk has yet to be reinstalled. There was some construction done by that business. Sidewalk has not been put back in to date. I want to remind you that the sewer connection on properties I have on Great Basin Boulevard, 2 connections on the lower end of the property, when the code says sewer connection is in front of each property. Hasn't been done. Also, on one of the properties, the meter pit has not been put in, or you put in meter pits for others. I want equal protection of the law. I don't know how many times I got to tell you guys that. I also repeat my concerns to the city council, but nothing's been done.
George,
That's it at this time.
Thank you. So, item number 3, discussion of possible approval and definition of a paved road or a surface treatment road for allocation of public transit funds. We did receive a kind of an explanation what Mr. Allworth was considering it. I don't know if everybody got a chance to read that.
Well, I think that is the concern that was brought up by everybody was that, that is changing the distribution of funds and one's just a treatment and it's not truly, we didn't feel obviously it was a paved road. And so-
What are you talking about?
Like on Georgetown?
like on Georgetown
Oh,
Ridge
okay.
Road, yeah.
Yeah, that's,
Just that slur, or that.
right. And same with, that would be part of Adams-C then as well. Because that was,
That was an overlay,
that's an overlay.
yeah. Where, like, it'd be like Belford Avenue, Georgetown,
Anywhere we're putting the,
just that.
Just a surface street, yeah, I think you put it out on McGill Highway.
Yeah.
There's quite a few places where it, where the treatment goes in there, and the concern was obviously that, you know, you're putting that in it, it's cost savings, but then, you know, if the funds are redistributed based on pavement, you know, the city has no additional roads that they can basically expand on. And the concern was that if the county decided to do Cave Valley Road, there's 20 miles of paved road that they could do, and just continually to reduce the percentage of funds that come back based on our percentage of paved roads.
so where would the money come to do these paved roads as far as new roads? Now, when you do the city roads or any other road, if you're distinguishing it between a paved road and a non-paved road, or non-paved road, curb and gutter, sidewalks, and that stuff like what we have within the city. So, we're talking about trying to get roads fixed as cheaply as we can.
Correct.
That's the main goal.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And put
100%
some type of surface on each of those roads. Now, what I'm asking is, where would those funds come from? From each entity, from the city and the county? Or would they be covered under the road tax?
Well, the roads are covered under the road tax. The concern for this agenda item is the distribution of that tax,
Yeah.
mainly when it comes to the public transit, because the RTC funds is distributed based on how you guys decide to budget annually. But the public transit funds, there's actually a formula in there that says it's based on the percentage of paved roads. And so the city has, I'm just shooting from the hip, say 35 miles of paved roads. The county's got 200 miles of paved roads. And so if they come over here and are, if based on, by definition of what's going on, and they claim that, hey, we do this surface treatment, which is exactly what you just said, we're trying to do it as cheaply as we possibly can and improve that road. But then that road becomes considered a paved road and not a surface treated
Right.
road, then the percentage of that divide of your public transit funds, a bigger percentage would go to the county every mile of paved road that they added on.
Basically, the Georgetown shouldn't be considered a paved road. And that's what this is about.
So,
It's not a paved road.
Okay.
so
So
the
what-
money for that road, the Georgetown Ranch Road, comes from, that's within the city, right? Is that city road?
That's a county road.
It's a county road right next to the city limits.
Yes.
So that money would come out of the county's funds.
Yes,
Yes.
so all of these surface treatments are based on, by the individual entity prioritizing their roads and choosing to do that, and using their budget that they get annually to surface treat these roads.
Well, I think what I'm trying to get at is the percentage of public transit funds that are gonna go into these roads as compared to RTC budget funds. So if the Georgetown Ranch is in the county, then that county would receive that much from public transit.
Yes, because there's a divide, and so if every surface treatment, and the city's concern isn't about, you know, if the city had the availability to expand their roads too, it wouldn't be an issue. The city has no other roads to do this to, but the county has
The gap.
the Gap Road, they got Cave Valley Road, they got North Spring Valley Road. I mean, they've got hundreds and hundreds of miles of roads, that if they chose to surface treat and the RTC treated it as paved
Right,
roads,
right.
the city's percentage would continue to go down to, at one point, it's basically 0%.
Okay, everything I can find out, I mean, people that I've talked to consider a paved road at least 1.5 inches of pavement. A surface road is not considered that.
Yes, and that's what I would come back and consider, that it's either some type of a minimum thickness of hot mix asphalt or even a cold mix asphalt, because we overlay a lot of our stuff with cold mix because we're trying to maintain those things. And so I think it's either some type of asphalt, hot or cold treatment, not just a oil treatment on the road.
Does the state have a minimum, Steve?
Well, yeah, actually, we've done, we, in the state, I've been, familiar, like, actually, there's a road south of Tonopah that was a lignite sulfate, which they consider a road, and it's a very similar process of a base type solidification, kind of what was done on Georgetown Road, and they consider that a hard surfaced road. 7 miles that goes to Gold Point. So it's a really gray area what you're calling a paved surface. I can understand your thought process of saying, yeah, we're gonna call a paved road a minimum of 1.5 inches of hot mix or cold mix pavement. But a hard surfaced road is that, you're out of the dirt, so Georgetown possibly could meet that criteria and not. And I also see the process of divvying up those funds, because the county has all this, you know, you also miss 212. 212 is another road that they're doing that base solidification and I know that they always go after those and put a chip seal on top of them. So, yeah, I don't know what the state's criteria is, because we have 1 or 2 roads that are kind of a similar deal that we're calling a hard surfaced road. It takes a lot more maintenance, obviously.
Than a paved road,
Yeah.
but less maintenance than a dirt road.
Versus a hot mix or a cold mix. We're not, state generally doesn't use a cold mix, we're generally always using a hot mix, but I would say a minimum of what you mentioned, 1.5 to 2 inches of a hot mix pavement or cold mix pavement would also work to justify that. Maybe you need to reach out and get some more understanding or verification of what a paved road would be considered. But like I said, I know the state even has something similar to Georgetown.
But Georgetown, and probably one of the ways to look at that is Humboldt County, usually the city of Winnemucca. They are the ones that started this stuff really, and they have a real good indication of what is paid and what isn't, what's covered under RTC and what's covered under their public transit. I think if we go back and we look at what the formula that Humboldt is that's a really good county to use, and the city of Winnemucca. If we go and we discuss or talk with the community of Winnemucca and see just what they determine to be a paved road and would give us a really good indication of what to do. I'm not trying to screw the city out of money or gain the county more money, but the definition, like Jim wants here, the definition of a paved road and a surface treatment road. Just to jump on it and say, okay, let's do this, this, and this. Let's see what Winnemucca, because they're kind of like Ely and White Pine County. The base of the populations in the city of Winnemucca and the county is a large county, Humboldt County. For the city of Ely and the county to get a true definition of a surface road and a paved road as far as the funds go. I think before we do really jump on a definition, we should really reach out to a county that knows a lot more. Because when we put the Georgetown Ranch Road in and we surfaced it, and we put the oil treatment on there, we brought Winnemucca down here to show us how to use the truck, to show us all the stuff. So I think this is just my own opinion. You guys can agree or disagree.
Well,
I think that if we reach out and we get kind of fine definition of what that county's doing. And we'll have to adopt it 100%, but I think we can get a really good idea of what we're doing here.
I mean, I don't think this is a critical item that can't be decided in the next meeting or
Right,
whatever.
Yeah, no, I'd rather
That's-
have a full board here.
Yeah, and then we can have further discussion, and then the board can feel very comfortable with their decision that they so choose to
We
make.
already got our budget set for this year based on the criteria that was already established.
Yeah, because we already have, the money in there for our budget, and so this could be coming back in, and they just, as that money comes in, we'll just split that divide based on once the decision is made,
Yeah, and I think, that's good, Paul, that's a good decision to make. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't know who is going to reach out to,
I'm good over them.
you'll get hold of the county manager in Humboldt County and the city manager. I think they have a city manager in Winnemucca, I'm not sure.
if they do.
Used to have. So anyway, let's do that. I mean, that's I hope you guys agree.
I do.
Let's go out and see what we can get from, and we can isolate it to Humboldt County and Winnemucca.
It's-
And then we'll have a really good idea of what we can and cannot.
And some of the stuff is, the divide and that split is defined by the county ordinance that created the public transit fund. And so, it'd be wise probably for the board members maybe to possibly read up on that thing, just to get an understanding of how that is actually set up in the ordinance. Would help in the conversation
I'm
probably.
gonna bring a copy of it next time.
A copy of the ordinance?
Yeah,
What
I
kind of
think
ordinance?
we would all.
I guess there's a lot of ordinances.
I know, I'll help you.
You'll get it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll have to reach out.
Yeah,
So-
make sure you reach out. Don't let me forget.
Yeah, I'll reach out to you.
So,
Let's see if we can do this. Get BJ, Mike or Jim and you and Bill Calderwood or somebody to sit down on a Zoom call or something like that and have equal representation during that call so that we can all get a really good idea from both the city, the county, and the city engineer of how we can determine the surface in a paved road. And I think that's better than one person do it. It only take like 5, I don't need 100 people. The city representative, your road guy, Bill Calderwood, ours, BJ, Wayne's the chairman, and we'll just sit down and get this, get a good definition, and hopefully everybody can agree, come back to the next meeting. Like BJ said, this isn't life or death, this doesn't have to be done tomorrow, but it needs to be done right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay. So at this,
We're continuing.
I don't know if I wanna retable, I don't know if I wanna table it, because that would have to be next
No, I
meeting.
think it's.
I think we just leave it as a discussion item.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, leave it as a discussion item.
Yeah.
That's up to the chairman.
I know, I'm waiting for him to look at me. Point of information, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Georgetown Ranch has been annexed within the city. It's within the city limits, just so you know if you didn't know.
It's within the city limits, but still a county maintained.
County maintained.
No, that's fine, but I wasn't sure if you knew. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Item number 4, discussion and possible action, approval of the change order number 2 for the RTC Murray Street paving project, 2021 PWP. Oh, yes, I can read that. I haven't got my glasses on. All right, BJ, you want to go over that?
Sure. And so this is basically the completion after the punch list and everything that we went and walked through, made a punch list. And so there's obviously some things that were not necessarily completed, that had been overlooked or whatever, but the transitions and everything that they made out there were all good transitions, and so I don't know that it was truly something that needed to be come back and put in there. So what we did was any of those things that were as a part of the bid that they actually bid on, that say didn't get completed or whatever, and now don't necessarily need to be completed, we just agreed to come back with a deduct from them rather than make them go up there and actually put this in and everything else. And so they agreed to come back and deduct those prices for that. In there, on that punch list, there's some things that were going on, and there's some very fine hairline cracks here and there on the sidewalks. We didn't necessarily make them take them out at this point in time, but we made note of them in our punch list so that we could come back and monitor them during this next warranty, this year-long warranty period, and deal with that come, basically next year at this point in time, if something needs to be done. Concrete's hard, it cracks, and there was nothing that looked structural or anything else. They were just very fine cracks in there that, we would make note of to consider. And so this is actually a deduct to, the contract of $6,500 and $6,565, to the contract.
Is this, the same thing we acted on the last meeting where we did 65 and we came down with the change orders, we made it $3,900, or is this in addition to the 3 million?
So this is change order number 2. The last time that came through here was actually some additional work where they ran into certain things that were unknown, and so there was an addition. I think off the top of my cuff, I think that first change order was like around $8,500. Now this is a deduct of $6,500. So at the end of the day, the complete contract has approximately about a $2,000 increase in price between the two
And
change orders.
I see here where the chairman and the owner of the contractor has agreed, so this is really not mute, but it's okay by you, by the contractor, and by the chairman.
Correct. This is what we come up and work through all the numbers and come up and negotiate and say, hey, here's what we feel comfortable presenting to the board.
I have no problem with that, and
Yeah, the last amount we approved it for last meeting was $8,300.
Okay, yeah.
has the city seen this? The city's okay with this?
Yes.
Okay,
DJ went there.
okay, then, unless there's other discussion, I'm gonna make a motion to approve the, change order, number 2 for the RTC. Is that okay? Is that okay?
Yeah, change order number 2.
I make that motion.
I'll second it. For discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, item number 5, discussion for possible action. Approval and acceptance of the completion of the RTC Murray Street paving project 2021.
Okay, and then this is just the final completion of the project. Everything is basically done, the punch list is done. We're just finalizing it. One piece of paperwork that we did get that had kind of changed from the start of this project, as you recall, to assist them with their paving, they had actually come in and requested to use a subcontractor. And so to come in here and be able to finalize out this project for final completion or whatever, we did make them provide us basically a waiver release showing that they had paid their subs for all the materials and labor and everything else associated with this project. So we have that from them, so.
Since the completion of the project, how's the neighbors accepting it?
Then I've had 2 people, one of them, I believe you've had a conversation with Mr. Gubler up there, was concerned about some water getting to his garage or whatever. Unfortunately, his garage is below, basically 2 to 2.5 feet below the road in a flood zone. And so, in that area, we actually met with him, in person prior to constructing it, because he had some concerns about getting, I guess he's got a car down there in this basement, and he had some concerns about being able to get his car in and out of with the sidewalk and the new curb and gutter. And so, during the field construction, we had basically went out there prior to pouring it down in there. We definitely made sure that we had actually met with him and agreed to the remedy to solve this situation. And so, so as far as I'm concerned, everything that's built up there is exactly the way that we had discussed with him and put in all of our pictures and all of our dailies and everything else that's going on there.
Yeah, because I said that with you guys,
Yes.
went over the pictures, went over the conversation, everything was documented, and he agreed to everything.
Yes, that's absolutely our take of what we negotiated in the field, because we wanted to make sure that we didn't just blow by his house and just build it. We basically knew, that morning, I was up there that morning that they were gonna start doing this stuff, and was talking to the contractor and everything we were gonna do right there. We went and knocked on his door. Unfortunately, Jake was not there in the morning when I was there, but when they came back in the afternoon, Jake was there and met with my guys out in the field. And then the only other, I did get another concern up the road. They weren't concerned with, their desire basically was to have a handicap ramp in front of their house. And And, you know, it's not a typical situation to have a handicap ramp that puts you out in the street, not at an intersection or anything else, and just mid-block in there. And so, that is like the very, very last house at the end of this project. And so, on the south end of this project, it will be picking up and going the next one. So, that one just came about like last week. They called and asked this question about it. And I said, well, at this point in time, we're closing the project out, but if it's something that the RTC and everybody wants to truly deal with, that will be the next phase that's coming up, you know, later in the summer or whatever, that we can take care of it then, because it is the last house. I don't know that we would want necessarily put a handicap ramp in the middle of the block,
No.
just because you're taken to nowhere.
Well, you have those like bicycle things to go off at the corners of each.
Correct. I mean, there is an accessible ramp like 2 houses down at the intersection, so it's not like there's nothing near him, it's just not right in front of their house.
Well, I'm glad this project is over.
So,
So, I'm happily gonna make a motion to approve the exception and the completion of the RTC Murray Street paving project. WP 2021-335. That's my motion.
I'll second it. For discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So does that mean that the next bill that I get from them is the last one since everything's done? Okay.
All right, item number 6, approval of the RTC minutes for 4/7/22. We had one little mistake and Lindsay's already corrected it. Yes, yes, yes. Add this to it.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes as presented with corrections.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks.
Okay, public comment? Anything else, Mr. George?
Yep. Mr. Chairman, I have ongoing concern on the ingress egress on Avenue D and where it intersects with Highway 93. That stop sign keeps getting knocked down on the corner, I don't know how many times. There is no proper ADA access in that area. Doesn't meet minimum city street width codes. You can't keep ignoring it. That pork chop needs to come out. There's other designs that could be made, could be making that area considerably better, easier to get into. You need emergency vehicles to get in and out, not go around the block or 2 blocks just to get to that access. You got a new facility there. Mr. Chairman, on phase 3 of the Murray Street project, I want to know if Mount Wheeler's been notified to take, that they may have to move some of their power poles for proper ADA access. You didn't have it on phase 1, you didn't have it on phase 2. Federal regulations, you have to have minimum access. You're not doing that. I don't know how many times I gotta tell you. I'm gonna watch this phase 3 again. I keep telling the city, I keep telling the engineers, you can't ignore that. Mr. Chairman, I'm requesting street signs for Oxbow Road out north by the Club 50, as well as a street sign for the corner of Oxbow and Mitchell. At a recent county commission meeting, there was some concern brought forward by your emergency people that had trouble finding the proper roads, or they were mismarked, or they didn't show up in their GPSs. If that's the case, I've been out there since 1974. I want those streets marked. If nothing else, give me the signs and I'll put them up myself. I've got an ongoing concern in regards to Campton Street and where it intersects onto Almond. That street is still way too narrow. Doesn't meet minimum street codes. Again, either we have rules and regulations or we don't. Should have been taken care of when the project was started. I've yet to receive any consideration for 745 Great Basin Boulevard. When Q&D was doing the construction that caused a water leak up by parking or running over the water shut off. We turned in a complaint, turned in a request for reimbursement, haven't gotten anything yet. Yet up and down that road, other people's got new meter pits. I want the same consideration for my family member. There was no meter put on 729. I've got 2 sewer connections on the lower end. My access was taken away. I had to pay for a permit and a new access and the removal of new curb and gutter on my lower property. The same situation happened to Mr. Terry Gust, but he got his back. Didn't have to pay for a permit, didn't have to pay for any of the removal. I want equal consideration. I want my money back. Let's see. Also have an ongoing concern in that NDOT has created a traffic and safety hazard by requiring the crossing of 2 sets of double yellow lines there by Napa and the Cal Ranch store. It's illegal to cross the double yellow line. I don't know if you've monitored that area, but I watch it every day, every chance I get. That needs to be corrected. We need to go back to the older design. You're causing a tremendous hazard there, tremendous hazard. Let's see. Oh, the same situation is created there by Nevada Bank and Trust, as well as CMC Tire. You need to redesign that. Not design it, but you better repaint those signs. It's very confusing. I see people violating the law all the time. I didn't make the rules and regulations. Government did.
George, thank you.
I'd like some answers, Mr. Chairman.
Well, is there any, doesn't look like any other public comments, so I'll just make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, that's what I'm waiting to hear. Second.
As we say, second.
Let's go.
Lindsay talked to Bill about that.
This one,
Yeah,
I wrote it down.
yeah, him and Martin could go out. Okay, that's that. Good to see you, Steve.
Thanks.
Things are going okay, you're back to work, that's good.
I know. Okay.
Sure, everybody in this room wishes you the best. Okay. How many surveys have you done?
We've done the top 4 of them.
Yeah. And how many got 8?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. But I think we need to stay right on top of that and get it agendized so that we can approve one to whatever priority we're gonna put on.
Okay, yeah, I'll go back and I'll talk to Buzz.
Yeah. And have him put his,
For-
and have him put his recommendation as far as, so I'd like to see that, not this week, for sure, but maybe the first week in June, the first week.
This has been a Georgetown production. George Chatchis reporting.